everyone, so this is my first video in a series of videos created for Stage 2 Modern History, and the topic that I'm first going to address is the depth study called The Age of Catastrophes, Depression, Dictators and the Second World War from 1929 to 1945. So this video today will be about the condition of the economy in the 1920s in the United States, just to sort of set the scene of where the United States was before the Depression began. So this video is on the post-war economy of the United States. It's from Stage 2 Modern History, and it's part of Key Area of Inquiry 1, the causes and impact of the Great Depression. So to set the scene for where the United States was at in the 1920s, just before the Depression hit, I'm just going to have a look at what it was like in the 1920s. So in the 1920s, the USA was an extremely wealthy industrial country. They had many resources such as wood, coal, oil and iron. They also had an extremely large population which had not really been affected by World War I like other European countries. They also had strong industries such as railway, mining and manufacturing. And World War I had boosted their economy significantly because during World War I, the United States was a provider for many war materials such as food supplies, uniform supplies and of course munitions and weapons. Most importantly, the United States experienced a boom in their economy between 1922 and 1929. This was characterised by the national income increasing by 40% and the average individual income increasing by 27%. So there was greater spending and greater demand for products. New technology was one factor that led to the economic boom in the United States. So with the invention of the radio, there was a great demand for electrical goods, including the radio. And the chemical industry also produced a new material that was cheap and easy to produce called rayon. So that increased demand for clothing because it was cheaper to buy now. Mass production was also another factor that led to the boom. It allowed for items to be produced quicker and cheaper. These items were mostly household goods and also cars. Now, the cheaper production of cars meant that more people could buy these items. That means there was increased demand in the automotive industry, so that increased manufacturing, and there were more jobs for factory workers and people working with cars. Also, it supported the oil and rubber industry in the United States and also created construction jobs because roads and bridges needed to be created to support the new vehicles on the road. The Republican policy was also an important factor that led to the boom because they supported low taxes and also tariffs. So tariffs lead people to buy American goods because a tariff is a fee that's placed on an imported good. So with the tariffs, it meant that prices for American goods were lower than imported goods. So people would buy American goods rather than buying imported goods, and that supported the American industry. People also received wage rises because of the increased profits from increased demand. They received wage rises, which in turn increased demand and spending. Banks also supported the boom because they allowed hire purchase. So we are familiar with hire purchase in that we borrow some money from the bank and we pay off something in small installments. So like we buy a TV and we pay it off in installments and then we receive the TV. This was the first time in the 1920s that hire purchase was allowed, and it encouraged spending among the American consumers. Now, just because the American economy was in boom, it doesn't mean there weren't weaknesses in their economy. Older industries, such as coal and textiles, were being hit by new technology. So firstly, coal was being hit by the use of oil, gas and electricity, and textiles was being hit by two things. Change in fashion was leading to shorter dresses, which meant less material, and also the introduction of rayon was decreasing the need for traditional textiles, decreasing profits. Agriculture was also being hit during this time. There was falling demand from Europe because during wartime, American farmers were exporting a lot of their material to Europe because they were having difficulty with their farming due to the war. But now that they were recovering from the war, there was not so much need for them to import from America. They also had problems with overproduction because they had access to new and modern machinery. They were overproducing their food, leading to lower profits. And these two factors combined led to decreased incomes. And decreased incomes got so bad for some people that they couldn't afford to pay the mortgage on their land anymore and lost their farms. There was also trade problems. As I mentioned earlier, American consumers were encouraged to buy American goods by placing tariffs on overseas imports. In response, other countries were doing the same to American goods. They wanted to encourage people to buy their own goods, and so they placed a tariff on American goods being imported into their country. So there was a decrease in exports from the United States. Overall, the whole economy suffered from overproduction. New materials and new technology meant that they were producing things at a greater rate, but there weren't enough consumers to buy those things, so there was a surplus. They weren't selling everything that they were making, leading to lower profits. Lastly, there was unequal distribution of wealth. 5% of the population was making 33% of the income, and that means that there were not enough people, as I mentioned, to buy all of the things they were making. The rich were really the only people that could afford to buy cars, radios, and things like that. So there was not enough people to buy the products that were being made because of the unequal distribution of wealth. So there you have it. You can see that the United States economy was extremely strong in the 1920s, mainly due to World War I, successful industries, and also mass production and new technology and things like that. However, there were some significant weaknesses that were all going to come to light once the Great Depression hit. My next video will be about the causes of the Great Depression, and following that I'll talk about the impact of the Great Depression both in the United States and also in Germany. So I'll catch you next time. Bye!